Welcome back to StoryPath English, my friends. I am truly, deeply happy to see you here again in our circle. Please, find a very comfortable place to sit. Lean back. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of the day leave your body. Take a deep, slow breath in. Hold it for a moment and let it out. Imagine we are sitting together once more by our warm, glowing campfire. Tonight, the air around us feels crisp, cool, and ancient. It smells of damp grass, cold earth, and the heavy gray mist of the English countryside. If you listen closely, you can hear the wind whistling across a vast, flat plain, a place called Salisbury Plain. The stars above us are bright, but tonight they seem to be watching a group of giant, silent shadows that have stood in the same spot for 5,000 years. Tonight, we are traveling to the heart of Great Britain to look at a puzzle made of rock. It is a story of a people who had no writing, no metal tools, and no wheels. Yet they created a monument so grand that it still baffles the greatest minds of our time. This is the mystery of Stonehenge. Who built it, and why? To begin our journey, I want you to imagine you are standing in the middle of a green field at 4 o'clock in the morning. It is the middle of summer. The grass is wet with dew, and a thick, silver fog covers the ground. Suddenly, the first ray of the sun breaks over the horizon. It shines through a narrow gap between two massive stones, hitting a central point with perfect mathematical precision. You are standing in the center of Stonehenge. Around you are giant gray stones, some as tall as a 2-story house. Some stand in pairs with a third stone laying across the top, like a giant's doorway. These are called trilithons. They are silent, heavy, and covered in yellow and gray lichen. You feel small. You feel like you are standing in a temple built for a god of time. How did these stones get here? Who moved them? And what were they trying to tell the sun? To understand Stonehenge, we must travel back 5,000 years to a time we call the Neolithic Age, the New Stone Age. Imagine a world where there are no cities, no roads, and no machines. The people are farmers. They live in small wooden houses with straw roofs. They watch the seasons with intense focus because their lives depend on the sun and the rain. Stonehenge was not built in a day. It took over 1,500 years to finish. Think about that for a moment. That is 60 generations of humans working on one single project. Your great-great-grandfather started it, and your great-great-grandson would still be working on it. Have you ever started something that you knew you would never see finished? Have you ever worked on a dream that was meant for the future? That was the spirit of Stonehenge. The first great mystery is the how. There are two main types of stones at Stonehenge. The largest are the sarsen stones. They are massive blocks of sandstone. Each one weighs about 25 tons. That is the weight of 4 large elephants. These stones came from a place 20 miles away. That might not sound like a long distance today, but imagine moving an elephant-sized rock across hills and mud without a truck. The smaller stones are even more mysterious. They are called bluestones. They weigh about 4 tons each. But here is the incredible part. These stones came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, which is over 150 miles away. Imagine thousands of people straining against thick ropes made of grass and leather. Imagine them placing the stones on wooden sledges and pulling them over rollers made of tree trunks. They had to cross rivers, climb steep hills, and move through thick forests. Why would they go to so much trouble? Why not just use the rocks that were already there? It tells us that these specific stones were sacred. To the builders, the journey was just as important as the destination. Every mile they walked was a prayer. Every drop of sweat was a sacrifice. My friends, think about the unity this required. To move one sarsen stone required at least 1,000 people working in perfect rhythm. There was no king with an army to force them. They did it because they believed in something. They did it because they were part of a community. They were building a language out of stone because they had no words to write down. For a long time, people believed the Who were the Druids, the ancient Celtic priests with long white beards and magic wands. But we now know the Druids didn't arrive in Britain until 1,000 years after Stonehenge was finished. The real builders were simple farmers. They were people like you and me, but with a connection to the earth that we have lost. They were master engineers. If you look closely at the stones, you will see something amazing. They are not just sitting on top of each other. They use mortise and tenon joints. This is a technique used by carpenters to join wood. They carved a knob on the top of the standing stone and a hole in the bottom of the top stone so they would lock together. They were treating giant rocks like they were pieces of furniture. They wanted this building to last forever. They were fighting against time itself. Now, we must ask the biggest question of all. Why? Why did they spend 30 million hours of labor on this circle of rocks? The most famous theory is that Stonehenge is a celestial calendar, a giant clock built into the earth. If you stand in the center on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the sun rises exactly over a specific stone called the heel stone. It is a perfect alignment. For an ancient farmer, this was the most important day of the year. It meant the sun was at its strongest. It meant life. But there is a deeper, more emotional theory. Recently, archaeologists found another Stonehenge nearby made of wood called Woodhenge. They believe that Woodhenge represented the world of the living wood rots and dies, just like we do. But Stonehenge, made of eternal stone, represented the world of the dead, the ancestors. Imagine a great procession. People would travel from all over Britain, bringing their animals and their families. They would feast at the wooden circle of the living, and then they would walk down a long sacred path called the Avenue to the stone circle of the dead. Stonehenge was a place where the living could talk to the ghosts of their fathers. It was a bridge between the earth and the sky, between the past and the future. Have you ever visited a place that made you feel the presence of those who came before you? A place where the air feels heavy with history? That is Stonehenge. It is a place where time stands still. Some people even believe Stonehenge was a place of healing. They found many skeletons around the stones with injuries and diseases. They found that people traveled from as far away as Germany and Switzerland to be near the blue stones. They believed the rocks had a heartbeat of magic that could take away pain. To them, Stonehenge was the world's first hospital, a place of hope in a world of darkness. As the centuries passed, the world changed. New people arrived in Britain with bronze tools and new gods. The great ceremonies at Stonehenge stopped. The forest began to grow around the stones. The Roman soldiers marched past them and wondered what they were. Medieval monks looked at them and thought they were built by the magician Merlin or by giants. People forgot the who and the why, but the how remained standing, a gray ghost on the green plain. Today, Stonehenge is a symbol of human persistence. It reminds us that we have always wanted to mark our place in the universe. We have always wanted to say, I was here, my people were here, we saw the sun rise, and we were not afraid. Machu Picchu, the pyramids, Atlantis, and Stonehenge, all of these stories tell us the same thing. Humans are small, and our lives are short, but our dreams are monumental. We can move mountains if we move them together. Learning English is a bit like building Stonehenge. You are moving heavy stones of grammar and vocabulary. Sometimes it feels like the goal is 150 miles away in the mist. Sometimes you feel like you are pulling a 20-ton rock up a hill all by yourself. But remember, the Neolithic farmers, they didn't have machines. They only had persistence. They placed one stone, and then another, and then another. They didn't finish it in a day, but they never stopped pulling. Every word you learn is a stone in your own monument. Every story you listen to is in alignment with the light. One day, the mist will clear, and you will stand in the center of your own Stonehenge, a place where you can speak clearly, understand the world, and connect with people across time and space. That is the power of language. It is the only monument that can travel with you wherever you go. The fire is burning low now, my friends. The red coals are glowing like the sun hitting the altar stone at dawn. I want to thank you for sitting with me and traveling to the misty plains of England tonight. I hope that tonight, when you close your eyes and go to sleep, you can imagine yourself standing among those giant gray giants, feeling the cool wind on your face, and hearing the ancient whisper of the people who moved the earth to touch the sun. Tell me in the comments, if you were to build a monument today that would last for 5,000 years, what would it be? What message would you leave for the people of the year 7,000? I love reading your visions and your dreams.